Hey, what is up, mortals? It is SBurkVA here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 14 in Season 2 of What If Deku Had a Regen Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Midoriya was in a deep sleep. He had been studying and training non-stop for the final exams, so it made sense how exhausted he was. He wasn't having any dreams in particular, just enjoying the peacefulness of rest. Unfortunately for Midoriya, his slumber would be rudely interrupted. "Hey, Sleeping Beauty, wake up! We're here!" Midoriya's heavy eyelids opened up as a yawn escaped his mouth. He blinked a couple of times until his vision finally focused on the person who had interrupted his nap. "Kachan, just give me 5 more minutes." Midoriya's eyes closed yet again, but then Bakugo started to aggressively shake him. "Come on, everyone's waiting for us outside." Okay, I'm up." Midoriya's tired brain finally started waking up, and he shot up from his seat as he realized where he was. "We're on Island." Midoriya breezed past Bakugo, and the blonde followed, carrying both of their bags. After various screenings and security measures, Midoriya finally made it outside, and he gasped at the sight. Island was an artificial island made to protect the world's most outstanding scientists from villains, allowing them to safely conduct their research on quirks and technology. Today was the annual iExpo event, where heroes, scientists, and civilians come together to celebrate technological advancements in hero society. Several students from 1A were invited to go to the pre-expo, but the class decided that they'd rather all go when the expo opens to the public than leave some of them behind. It turned out that it was for the best, as villains had snuck onto the island the night of the pre-expo. Luckily, All Might, with the help of David Shield's technology, was able to take them down. Despite the island being artificial, there were various trees and vegetation amongst the colorful buildings. Some various attractions and inventions went beyond the technology normally seen in public. Island also had no rules against quirk usage due to their intense screening process, so many people were enjoying themselves while casually using their quirks. The streets were packed with people, and Midoriya couldn't wait to run off to join the crowds, but he was stopped by someone grabbing the back of his shirt. "Where do you think you're going?" Bakugo shoved Midoriya's bags into his arms, and the two looked out at the festivities. Several of their classmates and various Class 1B students had already gone off on their own. Just as they were about to go, a strong voice appeared behind them. "Welcome to the Island, boys!" All Might placed his hand on the pair's shoulders. The #1 hero had been personally invited to promote the expo, but he was still making time to make sure each student was enjoying themselves. As a crowd of fans suddenly started running up to them, All Might said, "That's my cue to get going! Enjoy yourselves!" All Might got swept away by the swarm of people, and Midoriya laughed to himself. It was nice to see All Might trying to rebuild a connection with him, even if it came in simple, kind gestures. After wandering around for a while, Midoriya and Bakugo found themselves at a tournament arena. It was a makeshift mountainside with various robots scattered about, and the task was to take out all the faux villains as fast as possible. The leaderboard had both single and double tournament times, so Bakugo and Midoriya decided to sign up for a doubles match. After the buzzer sounded, Bakugo used his quirk to blast off up the mountain, taking out the robots with single explosions. Midoriya used his throwing knives to swiftly stab robotic heads around him, and in a matter of seconds, another buzzer sounded, with a time of 15 seconds. They took first place. The audience cheered, and there was one audience member who seemed exceptionally pumped up. She was blonde with rounded glasses framing her blue eyes. Her excitement was palpable, as her cheers seemed to overwhelm everyone else's. When the pair reached the stands, she rushed up to them and bombarded them with questions. "You guys did so well, what's your quirk?" She began to poke around Bakugo's hero costume, and she was especially enamored by his grenade gauntlets. "Wow, these must be storage tanks that contain some sort of nitroglycerin compound that release larger explosions than you can produce naturally." She then moved on to Midoriya and began poking and prodding his costume as well. "What's your quirk? You didn't seem to activate it during the tournament unless it's some sort of accuracy-enhancing ability, but then what are the katanas for?" For some reason, Midoriya had lost his ability to form sentences, and his face had turned a bright red. It would seem his brain had decided to implode. Bakugo laughed and spoke for him. "I can create explosions from my palms, and Freckles here has regeneration. You know your tech and quirks pretty well, Glasses." The girl suddenly stepped back as she realized she was invading their personal space. She introduced herself. "Sorry for bothering you. I'm Melissa Shield, and I love studying quirks and support items." Hearing the girl's last name brought Midoriya's voice back as he exclaimed, "Wait! Shield? As in David Shield? All Might's old sidekick and genius support gear scientist?" The girl laughed and replied, "Yep, that's my dad." Just then, a new pair of students entered the arena, and when the names were read out, Bakugo and Midoriya turned their heads in shock. A buzzer sounded, and blasts of fire and ice filled the arena with steam, which blinded the audience's vision. The buzzer sounded again, and 2 names shot to the top of the leaderboard. Monoma and Todoroki, 7 seconds. Okay, I'm just quickly interrupting today's video to let you all know that our merch store has received an update. Finally, at last, we have released our 70K merch. If you're interested in picking up some high-quality merch, the link will be in the top line of the description. I recommend hurrying, though some items are limited and will only be available for a limited time. These items are also signed by James Seifer, so hurry while you can. Link in the description below. And thank you all for 70K subscribers. Now let's get back to the video. Midoriya's eyes shifted from the leaderboard to Bakugo, and as expected, he was shaking as explosions sparked in his palms. But unexpectedly, Bakugo took a deep breath and turned towards Melissa. He must have been working on his anger management, as he calmly asked, "You're from here, right? Can you show us around?" She nodded. "Of course. Let me show you my favorite cafe." The trio spent the rest of the day walking around and enjoying the various games, attractions, and tech demonstrations that the expo had to offer. Bakugo ended up joining Kirishima's group to explore the expo, leaving Midoriya with Melissa. After a long day of walking around, it was time for day 1 of the expo to come to a close. With the remaining daylight they had left, Melissa brought him to the lab she used at school. It was a quaint area, with various incomplete robot parts scattered on her desk. It was very high-tech, with various machines, books, and trophies decorating the room. Midoriya looked around and was amazed at the technology that she worked with. "Wow, you're super talented! I was never that good with technological stuff." Melissa smiled. "Thank you. I dream of making support items for heroes when I grow up since I can't be a hero myself." Midoriya gave her an encouraging smile. "You're definitely going to be successful. Look at all these items." Midoriya picked up a random weapon from her desk and moved it around in his hands. "Hey, be careful with that." The weapon suddenly misfired, and a dart was now embedded into the wall next to Melissa's head. Midoriya immediately put it down while profusely apologizing for nearly skewering her brain. Melissa explained that it was a tranquilizer dart shooter that she was working on as an alternative to guns. Midoriya wandered around, keeping his hands to himself, and a computer piqued his interest. There were various USB cables plugged into other devices, and a download's progress was being shown on the screen. Melissa appeared behind him and explained, "This is just an assignment for school. I'm taking a cybersecurity course, so I have to unencrypt the data on this thumb drive before next week." Midoriya had nodded, and an idea popped into his head. "So you're good at extracting data from things, right?" Melissa responded with a bit of a confused tone. Yeah. Why?" Midoriya fiddled with the SIM card he had stolen from Shigaraki weeks prior. He had tried to access the information within it himself, but the villains had seemed to be smart enough to encrypt the data very heavily, or at least heavier than the typical encryption that was on them. None of his friends were tech-savvy enough to help, and despite her helpfulness during the sports festival, Midoriya didn't quite trust Mei Hatsume enough to keep the secret. After an awkward silence, Midoriya handed the small item he'd been carrying with him to Melissa. "I think you may be the only one who can help me with this, but I need you to promise me that whatever you find in there stays between us." Melissa looked at Midoriya and the SIM card skeptically. "Okay, but can I at least have some context?" Midoriya opted to tell her the complete truth. "I got into a confrontation with a villain, and I stole his phone. I took the SIM card and broke the rest of it. He ended up running away, but I was left with this, and the information is all code gibberish I do not understand. And before you ask, I can't just hand this to the police because the villains have blackmail on me. Great news, I know, that I can't afford to come out." Melissa nodded, although looked a little scandalized, and placed the SIM card on her desk. "Believe it or not, but Uncle All Might told me about you a while back. He said that out of all his students, he saw a lot of potential in you specifically. I may have only met you today, but if he trusts you, then I trust you too." Midoriya was shocked and relieved that she agreed to help him out. "Thank you so much. I promise that I'll pay you back for your help." She shook her head. "Don't worry about it. It's on the house." Melissa spent the next several minutes typing away at her computer, but after over 10 minutes passed, she finally spoke. "Okay, this is gonna take a lot longer than anticipated." Midoriya looked over her shoulder at the computer screen. "I honestly have no idea what any of that means." Melissa sighed and stood up from her seat. "My best estimate would be a couple of days, at most a week." Midoriya raised his voice in shock. "A week? I'll be at the summer training camp in a couple of days, and I probably won't even have any signal." Melissa looked at Midoriya sympathetically. "I promise that I'll call you the moment I find out what's on that card, but this is the best I can do." Midoriya sighed, but beggars can't be choosers. It was getting late, and he had 2 more days of the expo left. He should enjoy his time on Island instead of stressing. Midoriya thanked Melissa before returning to his hotel room and going to sleep. Despite his worries, Midoriya eventually forgot about the whole SIM card situation. The rest of his time on Island went by in a flash, and before he knew it, he was already back at the airport. Before getting onto his flight, someone called out to him. "Midoriya, wait!" Melissa was running up to him with a briefcase in her hands. "I made something for you." She thrust the briefcase into Midoriya's hands, and when he saw what was inside, he immediately closed it in a panic. "Melissa, you can't give me something like this in an airport!" An oblivious look plastered across her face before a flash of realization hit. "Oh, no, don't worry. It's not an actual gun. It's the final design of my tranquilizer dart shooter." Midoriya sighed a breath of relief as he opened the briefcase back up. It was a small and compact design that looked almost identical to pistols, which made him wonder how the heck she got it past security. The ammunition was small canisters with syringe needles at the end. She explained, "I remember when I first saw your fighting style at the tournament arena. You need to use weapons that keep people away from you because you don't have an offensive quirk. When you told me what your blood cells could do to other people, I got an idea. Instead of filling these vials with tranquilizer fluid, you can fill it with blood and incapacitate people with it from long distances instead of needing to get up close." Midoriya took the two weapons out of the briefcase and fitted them to the holster on his utility belt. He no longer needed his throwing knives and syringes with this. He had a long-range alternative for both of them now. Although, with his crimson-red suit with katanas and dart shooters, Midoriya realized he was starting to look more and more like a certain American vigilante. "Thank you for making me this. I feel like with these additions, my hero costume is complete." The next couple of days rolled around and Midoriya walked onto the UA campus with his bags packed for the Forest Training Summer Camp. Even those who failed their finals were allowed to attend, but they had to attend additional remedial classes. Midoriya was told to show up around 6 a.m., but for some reason nobody was there yet. He placed his baggage next to the 1A classroom door and looked inside only to see that it was empty. Midoriya jumped as a voice called for his attention. "Ah, Midoriya! There you are! We've been waiting for you." Midoriya was confused about who had just spoken before he looked down and saw Principal Nezu. He followed the mouse and entered his office, and saw Recovery Girl in the deflated form of All Might already inside. Once they sat down, Recovery Girl got straight to the point. "Midoriya, there's more to your quirk than you originally thought. Your regenerative blood cells aren't poisonous to others. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Not only can your blood cells destroy other cells, but they can also repair tissues, organs, and organ systems. What makes this even better is that your blood type of O-negative means you're a universal donor, so you don't have to worry about potentially causing blood clots or anything when giving other people your blood." Midoriya was shocked. If he understood what Recovery Girl was saying correctly, then his blood could heal other people beside himself. If that's the case, then he could probably guess why All Might was there with him as well. Recovery Girl probably caught on to Midoriya's realization as her next sentence confirmed his theory. "All Might has already informed us that you already know about his condition, so we wanted to have you here to ask you a question. Seeing as this is still your blood, we wanted to know if you're okay with us treating All Might's injury with it." Midoriya didn't see why or how he could refuse. Plus, he was in disbelief that his quirk actually had healing qualities outside of himself. He'd been using it to hurt others, but in reality he could do so much more by using it to heal instead. So, without hesitation, he responded, "Of course you can!" Recovery Girl took out one of Midoriya's syringes and All Might pulled up his shirt. Midoriya watched intently as she injected the entire vial directly into the scarred stomach injury that had been the thorn in All Might's side for the past several years. And before his very eyes, the scar began to fade away. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Meals, Adam Zagel, Zill, XAV Beat 03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toei Acosta, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364, and Knuckles, Rimuru Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on the behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.